Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's Rabbi Stephen here with another Devar Torah for you. Once again, we've got two portions. So we had one last week, two the week before, and I think we had one a while ago. I think we got one more for the year. I'm not sure. But before we get to that, okay, just a couple of little housekeeping notes. This Saturday, we have a couple of congregants, Sherry Reeder and Esmeralda Chalfant, otherwise known as Alana. Typically every year they lost their fathers around the same time, so they do a kiddush, special oneg, a special thing, bagels and lox, for the Saturday service. So we'd like you to come so we can do a minyan. I'm going to be part of that too. I lost my mother around this time of the year too. I'm saying a Mourner's Kaddish. So please join us Saturday for Saturday morning service. It will be a regular service, 9:30 to 11:30, give or take. And Friday is going to be just a regular service. Going forward into the summer, we're not going to be doing Tat Shabbats. I talked to the PTO. All of you folks, thank you for your feedback. And everybody's going away for the summer, and they got things to do. So we're going to curtail that for a while. We will start it up in September. We're also going to coordinate with some of the other congregations so that the kids are busy, so that we have things for the kids. Get them indoctrinated. It's a lousy word. Get them involved and oriented toward Judaism and the service, and get them with that Shabbat spirit, the Shekhinah. Other than that, the kids a week from this week are going to be doing the family service on their own. I will be away. My grandson is graduating high school. I'll be in Arizona for that, for the 18th and the 19th, Friday and the Saturday. The kids are going to be leading the service with the help of Bob Rieger, our co-president, and it's going to be very exciting for them. What a great way to end the school year for the kids, handling this on their own, right? Let's see what they can do. I have the utmost confidence in them. We're working today. We'll continue to be working with them to have them do it. And what a great way to change the next generation of Jews who will take over after we're gone. Speaking of after we're gone, the school visited a cemetery here in Lake Elsinore after school class, told them a little bit about some of the rituals. We looked at some of the gravestones. And, it's interesting seeing the history on some of those tombstones. Yeah, it's a little kind of funny sometimes, but what a great thing to honor people that, as the Mishnah Barak song by Debbie Freeman says, came before us, and thanks to them, we now have all the traditions and rituals, and we can observe, because they carried on, and it's our duty, it's our obligation to carry on the tradition and teach us, as the songs that Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young say, teach our children well and have them do the things that we've done. Okay? So, let's talk a little bit about these two portions. Behar, Behalotecha. The last two portions of the book of Leviticus. Right? So, we are now talking about some of the rituals, some of the things that we're going to be doing, but mostly, too, it talks about a warning. Okay? What is that warning? Okay, that warning is called the Tochacha. And we find this not only at the end of Leviticus, but we also find it at the end, in the middle of Deuteronomy. And it talks about what will happen if we obey the laws and what happens if we don't. Now, there's a big danger here. Okay, it's easy for our people to become complacent. What happens when things are going well? We talk about, doing well. We focus on making money. We focus on the material, right? And sometimes we forget to study Torah. We get so involved in the material, we forget to dedicate ourselves on Shabbat to the spiritual nature, their spirituality, to our connection with Hashem. And by the way, Behar opens with another rest. So one of the things we talked about in class is this whole idea of 7. The Hebrew word for 7 is Sheva, right? And the Hebrew word for Shabbat is Shabbat. It's kind of a little bit of a connection. Even the word oath, Shavua, talks about taking an oath. And also it talks about when you take an oath, you make sure you fulfill your obligation. That's important. You're making a pact with God, with Hashem, to either dedicate yourself or dedicate an animal or something, because you want to maintain that connection with Hashem. Now that it's the modern age and we do not yet have our temple, how do we do that? We make our connection with Hashem on Shabbat. We come to Saturday services. We study Torah, and that's come one way we dedicate ourselves. On the seventh day is Shabbat. 7 weeks from Pesach, 7 weeks is Shavuot, right? When Moshe Rabbeinu came down with the 10 Commandments, and Shavuot, we're counting the Yomar. We're in like the 35th, 36th day. On the 49th day after that is Shavuot. And one of the ways we observe Shavuot is by studying Torah, by doing a lot of Torah. We have discussions. Sometimes we stay up into the wee hours of the morning. What we're going to do at B'nai Chaim is on May 20th, which is the last day of school, and it's kind of fitting, is we're going to bring all the kids together. We're going to have some questions. We're going to talk a little bit, tell some stories, and that's one way we're going to observe Shavuot. 7th month, the first month, as reckoned in the Torah, is when we left Egypt, right? In Nisan, that's in the spring. The 7th month is Tishrei, which is Rosh Hashanah. 7th month, it is the spiritual new year, and it is when we reckon the years. It's when we change the year. The 7th year is the Shemitah year, and that's what this portion talks about. It talks about giving the land a rest, letting it, revivify, letting it replenish itself, getting that sulfur built up, so that the next year, when we start planting crops, they will grow abundantly. And Hashem says, you let it stay fallow in the 7th year. Don't worry, you'll get fed. The 6th year will be a bountiful crop. The 8th year, you'll still have some left over. The 9th year, 2 years after that, when you will really start to harvest, it'll be bumper crops. And the 7th times 7th year, the 49th year, is the Jubilee. That's when any land that has been sold because somebody maybe had a bad year, they had time, they weren't really good at making money, making business, running their business, and they had to sell the land to make money. They had to sell themselves into indenture to make money. Now the land returns. What does this do? Think about it. It makes sure that the majority of the land doesn't pass to a select few. It doesn't create an oligarchy of people that, money is power, possessions are power. It makes sure that doesn't happen. Okay? So, let's get back to the Tochacha, which is part of Bachalotecha, which is the second portion, and that closes out Leviticus. And again, it says very generally, if you do the right thing, if you obey the commandments, you give the tithes and all that, then your land will grow. And when people start to attack you, 10 will take on 100, 100 will take on 1,000, and there's a greater percentage. I'm not doing it correctly, but there's a greater percentage about how more people will take on more of the enemy, because it's just kind of magnified. It's kind of a magnifying effect. Think of it this way, right? So, if we do what's right, we will be safe, we will be secure. Abraham Maslow, right? The pyramid of needs. Our needs will be provided. If we don't, and this is when it gets really intense, and it drills deep down. It says, well, you might forget some of the commandments, and the land may not be as generous. If you continue to neglect your Torah study, then, maybe it's going to rain at the wrong times. In the V'ahavta, the second paragraph, what do we say? If you do what's right, you will get the rains in their proper time, the late rains and the early rains. So, the late rains and I may have this confused, but the late rains around the fall, we want that because we want the water to replenish the crops, right? The water. And then the late rains, we just want a little bit of a drizzle, just kind of, a finishing effect for the crops, maybe to cool it down. We don't want any big rains because that'll drown out the crops, right? So we want the rains in their proper season, right? Whenever there's a drought in Israel, if it gets to a certain point, the rabbis encourage us to pray and to fast because there's no drought, because maybe we haven't been doing what we should be doing. We haven't been paying attention. If we continue to neglect Torah, if we continue our offenses against Hashem, then not only will the land not yield produce, but enemies will come in and they'll overtake us. They will conquer us. They will sell us into slavery. Bad news, right? But it also ends on a very encouraging note, because Hashem says you will come back to Torah, to Shuvah, you will return, and when you do return, I will be there waiting for you with open arms. And by the way, even though I may be angry that you didn't uphold your end of the Brit, right, of the consecration, of the commitment you make, I'm still there for you. All right, I'm still be waiting there. It also talks about a warning. It says that, sometimes when people neglect, other people like, well, we neglected, but don't worry. And then when somebody is studying Torah, the people that neglected, they say, what are you doing that for? You're making us look bad. Then there's a matter of resentment that goes along with that. So the negativity kind of builds up. And what do we talk about with mob rule? We talk about if you're on your own sometimes, it's kind of tough. When there's more people, and hence the minyan, the 10 people, it's a lot easier to go along with the morals and the ethics and the commandments because you've got that support. So, thank you for listening. And at the end of the Torah portion, we say Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazak. It's the warrior's cry. Strength and strength. Let us all be strong. In this case, let us all be strong with our resolve that we're going to start coming to services on Saturday morning too. Now, we know that it's the summer coming up. You may want to rest, but what a great way to, now that you've got less things going on, less obligations, it's the summer. What a great time to spend the summer. Come to services. Promise you, I will make it worthwhile. It'll be fun. And we'll learn some Torah. We'll sing. It'll be a good time. Shabbat Shalom. And we'll also see you at the general meeting, elections, June 2nd. See you then. Shabbat Shalom.